Artosis?
What? Is that serious?
Can I answer that, JP?
Sure. Yes, you can. Sir.
All right. Listen, many millennia ago, there was this fatter, uglier toad that made it out of the water, and it humps the shit out of this Jewy grasshopper thing that only ate grass, and that is actually where the ancestors of Artosis came, and they ate their grass. They complained about everything. Why can't we eat meat? Everyone's too much stronger than us. And they just kept eating grass. And over the millennia, they developed into kind of like vultures, but they didn't eat meat either. They ate the shit and grass of everybody else that they walked on and shat on. And eventually, fast forward, a whole bunch of boring whining, complaining, Imba world, terrible. Why does my joints hurt all the time? And now, when you have Artosis, Artosis is the most famous 2004/5 third or fourth place perennial WCG runner-up for the United States of America. And then he later grew into the second greatest English commentator in Korea. And now he's like best white player in Korea. Now, Team Liquid's brought over a whole bunch of white guys, but Artosis he's that moss that grows on the tree that lets you know where the sun is. He's that.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Real Talk, the unedited, scripted, unfiltered show where I sit down with a gaming personality and talk about anything and everything. Daniel Stemkowski walks the street of South Korea with pride because years ago he was living on the floors of Friends with pennies to his name. Alongside his best friend and former Real Talk guest, Nick Tasteless Plot, Stemkowski has helped push StarCraft 2 esports into the mainstream with the casting Archon Tastosis. Not only is he a member of the most successful casting duo, he's also responsible for my name being changed to JP McDaniels. Dan, welcome to Real Talk.
Hey, JP. Happy to be here. It was a really nice intro you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you. How have you been, man? I know you were in Australia and Germany. What were those trips like for you?
They were a lot of fun, man. Australia was probably my favorite event I've ever done now. It was just a blast. Everyone was so nice, and it was run amazingly by, Blizzard Australia as well as the ACL. They were great, and everyone was really hospitable, a really fun event. And then Germany was great as well. IEM, I've never done an IEM. I've wanted to do one for a long time. I've always been a big fan of their tournament series, and it was a blast. Everyone at Gamescom was really cool, and the whole event is amazing. So I've had a good time, man, but it was a long time on the road. I was out of the country for like 18 days or something like that. It was pretty crazy. Yeah,
traveling is definitely one of the, it's also the perks and one of the downsides of our job. So let's go ahead and kind of jump to your childhood here, starting off Real Talk. You grew up in the Boston area. I believe it's Salem. Is that correct?
Yes, Salem, New Hampshire, not Salem, Mass. Not where the witch trials are. Somewhere much less relevant than even that. It's a small border town, about 35-minute drive from Boston, right on the border of Salem, of New Hampshire. It's called Salem.
Now, we're pretty good friends, so I know a lot about you, probably more than most. Your two brothers are actually quite smart. I know your brother's he has a doctorate in math or something like that?
Yeah. My older brother has a doctorate in mathematics, or his PhD, or whatever you call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between us. I'm not so smart. But he's a professor at Delphi University on Long Island. Does a lot of math there and stuff. So, he's a really smart guy. And my younger brother is, he actually, we have like different fathers. So his family actually owns, or is a partial owner in Rockingham Racetrack, which is like this big, old, famous like horse racing track in Salem, New Hampshire. And so he works there.
Gotcha.
But he's smart. He's really smart.
What was childhood like growing up for young Artosis?
Salem, New Hampshire is like mostly just trees and squirrels. It's a town of it probably has about 28,000 people now. And New Hampshire has no sales tax. So Salem's like right on the border. It's like the closest town, I think, in New Hampshire to Boston. And in between Boston and New Hampshire is like all these suburbs of Boston, basically. So there's like a huge amount of population there. So like everyone goes over the border to shop. So basically my town is like, it was trees and stores. Just like a ton of strip malls, regular malls, like just all sorts of stuff like that. So it's like a really kind of boring place. So, you know, I mean, I had fun doing the stuff I did, but it's not like an exciting place to grow up. Pretty laid back, pretty timid.
What did your parents do for work, and what was your relationship like with them growing up?
Well, my father left when I was 2, and he does computer stuff. Like he like programs, but he also like oftentimes manages other programmers. I'll never quite understand exactly what it is, but yeah, there was various periods in my life where he lived nearby. Like he lived in Boston for a few years. He lived in California for a long time. He lives in California now. But occasionally he'd live somewhere in the area, and I would get visitation with him. You know, when possible, like dinner once a week, and then like every other weekend if he was around. But he traveled a lot too, actually, and so I didn't see him as much. And then my mother just kind of worked all the time. You know, single mother. We grew up like really poor and stuff. She was trying to support, you know, she has 3 kids and a house, and you know, it's just pretty expensive life. So my relationship, I would say, would be much better with my father, or it was when I was growing up. Probably because he wasn't really around. So, you know, it's like, what is there to fight about? You know, you just see him and do fun stuff, because that's what visitation is. Whereas with my mother, it was like a lot more rocky. She didn't approve of StarCraft or anything like that, so not quite as good.
Was that kind of rough on you? I mean, were you always kind of a gamer, or did you grow into that, or how did that kind of come up?
Yeah, you know, I always played a lot of video games. I really liked them. I always was really good at video games. Start out with Atari, and then we got a Nintendo, like way long ago, you know, with like the world-class track meet and Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers and stuff like that. And so we had that for a while. And then eventually we got a Sega Genesis. Then eventually after a while I saved up money for a long time and got Super Nintendo. And at some point we got like an N64. My brother got that for like a Christmas, so that was pretty awesome. And eventually I saved up enough money to get a PlayStation 1, but it was like years and years and years later, and I just got it because I really wanted to play like DDR and Final Fantasy 7, or 6, or whatever one that is. You know the one I'm talking about, the one with the giant sword that looks stupid.
7.
The guy with the gun hand, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I always played a lot of video games, but I was into a lot more sports when I was younger. I was like really, really, really into basketball. And eventually really into like aggressive inline skating, like rails and ramps and stuff like that.
So when you kind of took this career path that you have now, and I guess also when you started competing in StarCraft 2, which we'll talk a little bit later on kind of how that came to be, how did your parents feel about that at the time? Were they supportive of you?
Well, my dad didn't know too much. He knew that like I would... when I went to visit him for weekends, I'd oftentimes bring like a keyboard and mouse, and he just called me like Jiggly Fingers because, like, you know, you move really fast in StarCraft, so for him he was like, okay, Jiggly Fingers, you know, whatever. So he didn't ever really care, but you know, my mother though was like really not impressed by it. I started getting like really into it around the same time. There was like all these stories coming out in 60 Minutes and stuff about like the addiction of EverQuest and this new thing, video game addiction. And basically my family was pretty convinced that I was just addicted to video games and was a failure going nowhere. So my mother was extremely unsupportive of StarCraft.
All right. Well, in terms of just school, what was school like for you? Were you a good student? Were you a slacker? Were you a jock? What were you like back in the day?
Well, it's kind of funny because you know, Salem's pretty small. There's like one middle school, one high school, and then a bunch of elementary schools. And my older brother had kind of looks the same as me, or we did as children at least. And we have the same last name, of course, which is pretty hard to forget. And how old? We're like 4 years apart, or 5 in school. We were apart.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, he just ripped through school. And obviously, I mean, he teaches now. So they expected the same of me, and they got it at the beginning. Like in elementary school, I killed first grade through 4th grade. I did really well. They were like, "Wow, You're so smart. You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer one day." And then around 5th grade, I started slacking a lot. I was playing like a lot of basketball, interested in other things. I think that's right around that's right when I started getting pets and stuff. I got some rabbits and guinea pigs and stuff. I was really interested in that. I didn't want to do homework. I didn't want to do any papers or anything. So I started doing a little bit poorer then. And then I went to 6th grade. I became reinvigorated. I started, trying again. Did really well in 6th grade. And that's where I actually met a kid who really influenced my life a lot. The one Korean kid in my town became my best friend. And we did a lot of stuff. He showed me really important things in my life. He introduced me to, or he was one of the people that helped introduce me to and play a lot of Magic with me, Magic the Gathering. I got really into that for a bit. He also ended up showing me StarCraft eventually. And he also let me know that actually if you don't do your homework, it's not really in trouble. Being scolded or whatever is not actually being in trouble. And that was a weird disconnect for me, where I used to always be afraid of getting in trouble at school. And so once I figured that out, I kind of went downhill. And as I got more into StarCraft, I didn't do so well in school overall. I was always in high-level courses. They still let me into those, even though I got terrible grades, because they knew that I was smart. I'd do fine on the test. I just wouldn't do any work ever. And so I ended high school with a terrible, terrible average, because I was staying home a lot to practice StarCraft. Once I got a car, I would drive home in the middle of the day. I'd be like, you know what? I want to go play WG Tour or something. And so I just walk out of the school, get my car, go home, and do that.
Do you think that has anything to do with why your mom didn't enjoy these games, you playing these games, because you were just leaving school on a daily basis almost?
I don't know how much she knew of how much I was really skipping and leaving and stuff like that. She didn't, I guess that probably had something to do with it, but I don't think she was really involved in looking at my grades all that much. She knew I was smart and stuff, but I guess she probably wasn't too impressed when, everyone in my town basically applied to the same 3 colleges and got in. And I didn't get into college because, I did too poorly, I guess, and no one was going to let me in because, obviously the universities and stuff don't know who I am, and it's not like my town where I just get free passes for being smart or something like that, where they still let me into harder classes. But yeah, I mean, I guess that could have had a little bit to do with it, but I don't think that was the main issue.
I think it might have been, it was either you or it was Nick, were telling me that you actually used to play a lot of sports, specifically basketball. How I guess, is there any way to convey how good you were at basketball? Were you all state or anything like that?
Oh, well, I'll never know how good I really was. I guess, so basically in 3rd grade, I was not into sports before this. I started playing a little bit in elementary school, 2nd grade, I started playing a little bit of soccer and stuff like that, just whatever, dodgeball, whatever was there, because it was forced recess. So I'm all right, whatever, I don't have my action figures here. I guess it's time to do something else. But in 3rd grade, there was a basketball league that opened up, and my town, for my grade level, plus a year, minus a year, in my year or something like that, became really, really big in basketball. Everyone started playing it for whatever reason. And so I joined the league, and I was the worst player in the entire league in 3rd grade, man. God, was I pitiful. But I really liked it. I was oh, you know what? I want to get good at this. This is a lot of fun. So I practiced and practiced and practiced, to the point where if I was walking down the street, I was dribbling a basketball, and I would play until the ball would bounce off the backboard and hit me in the face because I couldn't see it because it got too dark, and the basketball would sleep next to my bed, and like, so I played like a lot and got better and better and better, and eventually I was definitely one of the best players in my town. Yeah, I was the best shot by far, and but I wasn't really fast and stuff. I was like a lot taller than everyone back then. Like I peaked out early, I guess, in my height, because I'm not actually like a tall player for someone that plays basketball, but at that time I was pretty tall. And I guess it probably helps I was a little bit older than everyone else in my grade, because I went to readiness instead of first grade. Well, the year I was supposed to go to first grade, I went to readiness, which is kind of like an in-between kindergarten and first grade thing to make sure you're mature enough or whatever. But anyways, so I got really good at basketball, and then I started skating a lot. My town kind of switched over to skating for whatever reason. Everyone just kind of did the same things. Everyone's like, oh yeah, the skating thing's really cool. So we all got like rollerblades and started grinding on rails and curbs and going off ramps.
What was the
stuff
sickest trick you could do?
I was pretty good at royale grinds. I felt like that was probably, out of the moves that are reasonably hard to do, I guess, like that was the one that I was doing the best. But yeah, I mean, I was better at grinding than ramp stuff, because I'm like, I know how my bloodline made it this far. We're a bunch of wimps, man. Like, I'm very careful about hurting myself and stuff. So I never really got all that good. Like, I did it a lot, but, you know, it took me a long time to master moves, because I would very slowly approach them, because I didn't want to fall and hurt myself, even though I did many times very badly. But anyways, so I skated a lot, and then high school was coming up. So I, like, kind of put the skates away and started practicing a lot of basketball again, because I'm like, well, you know, it's high school. I want to join the traveling team now. I didn't really do that in middle school. Middle school was like a weird time with like it was like I wasn't really into it that much in middle school because of like politics and stuff. It was really weird. But for high school, I was like really starting to practice again. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna go try out for this. I should make it on the team. I was pretty sure that I'd make it. Well, to be honest, in my own head, I've always been like a cocky guy, so I was completely sure that I'd make it and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make the traveling team. It'll be fun. You know, I'll play a lot of basketball. It'd be great. And then like a week before, I was jumping on a trampoline at my neighbor's house with another friend, and I like severely broke my ankle. Like my foot was turned around, the skin all turned black, and at this point I have like my foot on crooked and 8 screws and a metal plate in there, and I have arthritis in my ankle, and like, so it was a pretty severe break. Luckily the bones didn't come out through the skin quite. A lot of the skin died. They wanted to come out, but not quite. Yeah, so that happened like a week before the tryouts. So at that point, I like kind of lost all my friends that played basketball, because, you know, everyone's still like doing sports, and like here I am, and I mean, I'm out of commission for like at least a year, and then it turns out like much more than that. Like I'll never probably play like a sport at that level again. So I kind of fell back into my more nerdy side, played like a lot more Magic, played more video games, and that's kind of what got me into StarCraft, because I needed a competitive outlet. Yeah, so that's, I guess, who knows how good I was at basketball. I thought I was really good.
Would you say, you know, if you hadn't have messed up your foot like you did on the trampoline back then, would you say your life would be completely different now? Or would it, do you see yourself kind of going where you are right now with StarCraft, had you been on the basketball team and done other things like that?
No, I don't think so. Because I got, like, I guess it was, if I can remember these dates right, like, I got StarCraft around my birthday time, right before high school. So I only played like some BGH, like BGH Islands and stuff, like big money maps, like terrible newbie play against computers and stuff for a few months. And it wasn't until I broke my ankle that I started to really get into it. Just because, you know, I had nothing else to do, and I need to be competitive at something, or like I become depressed or something. Like I just have to compete somewhere. I have to be trying to raise my skill in something that I enjoy, or it's just I become unhappy. So that's kind of how I got my big start in StarCraft. I don't know if I ever would have put in enough time if I was busy doing other things like playing basketball and still skating and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, if I could have been doing that, and if I had figured out how beautiful a game StarCraft was, I would probably still be where I am. But that's the thing. It took me a while to figure out just how amazing StarCraft was. A lot of time put into the game.
Well, let's kind of shift and talk about StarCraft now, specifically. I know obviously your main ID that you use now is Artosis. Did you use any other names prior to that, and what led to the ID of Artosis?
Okay, so as a child, I went by Danny instead of Dan. Whatever, that's what people called me. I don't like it anymore, so please don't call me that if you meet me. It's like a very childy name for me. It's like whenever I hear that name, I get like brought back to my childhood. Well, I got Diablo 1 like the same time as StarCraft, and so I was like, obviously Diablo is the good game here. I was really into RPGs at the time, so I made the ID Archmage Danny, and that was my ID because I was like, I made the mage character, the sorcerer, whatever, the wizard, and so I used that. It was just my BattleNet ID, so I just like logged in with that and started playing with that, and then eventually I realized, I'm gonna become someone that people know at this game. I'm gonna become famous. It's just in my future.
That early on.
Huh?
That early on, you realized that?
It was like year 2000, I guess, that I was like, well, I'll be famous for this game, so I need an ID that's cool and no one has, because I didn't want to be like, Death Knight number 37. It's like, I hate seeing names overlap. Like, we have 2 pro gamers with the ID of Rain right now. Like, really? Like, is that ID that cool that you want to fight another guy to have that name? It's like, so I was like, I need my own ID. So I sat down one day. I still remember I was sitting in my room. I had a paper plate I had just eaten like a peanut butter sandwich off of. So I took out a pencil and started writing down ideas. And I was talking to my friends on BattleNet, and my friend came up with Artosis, a Korn song, which I do not like, by the way. I don't really care for Korn all that much, and that song in particular is not particularly good. And so I was like, but that's kind of cool, Artosis, but let's see. So I took Tosis from that and AR from Archmage Danny, and I put that together and got Artosis. So I was like, is this a word? And I looked it up. It wasn't a word. I was like, all right, that's mine. And that's how I got that ID. And I stuck with it because I do not like to I don't change my ID every other day like Beyond or whatever you want to call him, Ghost King or whatever, Bleach.
Obviously, you can't reveal too many of your Smurf names, but are there any other names kind of in the past that you used that you thought maybe this could be the I guess what Artosis is now?
Like other IDs I used that I thought were cool?
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of IDs that I thought were cool.
Yeah.
Some of them I can't reveal because I'm actually smurfing on the Korean ladder right now, but they're my favorite Smurfs I ever did. I did some other random ones. The media guys know I use the ID Bean in StarCraft 1 a little bit because, Ender's Game. I read like all the games in all the series, and they all just read like Ender's Game only, which is like not even the best book in the series. And they're like, Bean, what, do you always want to be second place? I'm like, no, Bean is way cooler than Ender. And so I made that ID and I used that, and they always tease me for that. And I used some other ones like way back. I have a funny little story. There used to be this ladder. I think it was the Cloud Ladder, but I might be wrong on that. And you would have to... This is so funny. You would make your team, and the loser has to go and report and type in the IDs of his opponent and their team name.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Oh my God, this is so funny. StarCraft 1 had a limit of 15 characters on an ID. So myself and my friend entered the 2v2 ladder, and our IDs were, we chopped up the alphabet into halves, and then we'd each take the half of our alphabet and then flip it around backwards. Okay, so like his name would be like Z, Y, X, W, whatever. It would be like that, right? And the name of our team was Backwards Alphabet Team, but backwards. Every time we won, they would look at this and be like, we have to type all this in, and it would take them forever because you mistype one thing and it doesn't work. And you have to report it or you're abusing. So, yeah, that was my... that was so funny. Oh, my God. That was good times.
Always trolling, apparently. Always trolling.
Oh, man, that was just way... Oh, my God. I almost had milk out of my nose when we first did that.
Your first game of StarCraft, what race was it? Who was it against? How'd it go?
First game ever was at my friend's house. I was Protoss against a computer. I made a gateway. I made a Zealot, then a Dragoon. And I think by then I was supply capped. And then some Zerglings and maybe a Hydra or something came and killed me.
Nice.
The first time I ever played. I had seen my friends play like one game or something, and yeah, that was my first one. And once I finally got onto BattleNet, like it used to keep track of wins, losses, and disconnects. And in my first 5 games ever, like against computers or whatever, I disconnected like 3 times because I'm like, I'm not going to get losses on my account. And then I realized in my first 5 games, like this was my first or second day of ever really playing on the internet. I realized how stupid that was, and then that's the last time Artosis ever abused guys. That was like 1999 or something.
Now, you played Terran competitively in StarCraft 1. StarCraft 2 started out with Zerg, now you play Protoss. Initially, you said you played Protoss in StarCraft 1. Why Terran back then?
Well, that was just like my first game, and I guess a lot when I was a BGH newbie and stuff, Protoss is really appealing because you have cannons that just defend you, and then you get carriers, which are cool. So that's like kind of why I've used it a little bit. But I was playing all 3 races somewhat, and when I decided to become good at StarCraft, I simply went around and asked all the good players I knew, what's the hardest race? Because I was such an unbelievably cocky kid, and I guess I still am. That I was like, well, I'll just show the world, I'm going to become good at this. I'm going to become good at it with the worst race because that's how good I am. And just a lot of confidence in myself, I guess. But I asked everyone, and everyone at that time was like, Terran is the hardest. It's really hard to be good with Terran. So I chose Terran and just stuck with it the entire time because of that.
What's kept you around StarCraft so much? Why is it the game that pretty much has been the focal part of your, I guess, adult life?
It's the hardest thing in the whole entire world. It's so like beautiful to me. This is like really hard for me to put into words for people. Like StarCraft fulfills so much for me in my life. Like, I've played so many games competitively and with friends, like in a very competitive manner and stuff like that. And I always like beat them and get better than them very quickly. And then I found StarCraft, where I could actually go online, and there's no end to people that I can play against. No matter how good I get, forever, I will always have huge challenges to overcome in StarCraft. And that's what really got me into it after a little bit, because I was like, wait a minute. I've been playing this for how many months, and I'm not killing everybody? Like, this is... what is this? This is... so that's what really got me started. And then the better I got, the more I realized how good I could become. Like, you have to get better, and... Like, I guess nowadays it's not as hard, but back in StarCraft 1, right, you'd have to get really, really good to understand how much better the top players are than you. Because it's like it was hard to even comprehend back then. It was like, it was such an unknown, untested game with, there's like no recordings of it, and most people will never even observe one of the top players playing. Like, to even understand how much better someone is than you, you have to be so good. It's like... What an interesting concept that is. And it's a never-ending challenge, the game. And it's the intricacy, the beautifuln's the trading off in certain areas for other areas. Do I give up some economy to gain time? Do I give up time to gain, an advantage in this area or that area? What area do I focus on as a player? Do I want to be a strategic player, a macro player, a micro player? Do I try to get everything at once? Do I become more cheesy for quicker wins, or do I put in the time to learn better macro? It's it's like the most challenging, sophisticated, beautiful game. It's like 1,000 billion times harder than like chess or Go or whatever. And like I always loved games like that. Like I loved chess. I was a big time into chess for a long time, and I mean, this is like chess on crack or something. You know, it's so much more. There isn't a game more complex and beautiful than this one. There just is not. And if there was, I'd probably go play that, even though it would probably make me no money.
I like to joke around and call you and some other people kind of a StarCraft purist, where you really do not play any other games out there. Like, really do not play any other games out there. Why is that? Are you just like basically exactly like you just said? You just don't see the value or the point to them?
Yeah, you know, the games that I end up playing, like every now and then I'll play like a game for a little bit of fun. Like I played Batman Arkham City a little bit recently, just because it was pretty fun. You know, it's like this open game, and I can like perch on a ledge and drop down people as Batman. It's pretty cool. You know, I played it for like a couple days. So I was like, okay. Right now I play a little bit of Magic again. I mostly do that to calm my nerves from StarCraft so I don't burn out so quickly. I've been burning out a lot in StarCraft lately, just because I've been putting in so much time. And other than that, I only really play Street Fighter because I see a lot of beauty in that game, and it's so high-skilled, and I feel like, you know, there's always going to be people for me to rise up, and no matter how much I play, you know. But, yeah, that's basically... And the thing is, while I say that I play that, JP, you're completely right, I barely play any of that. Like, very, very little. With StarCraft, it's like any free time I have, I actually do want to play StarCraft or watch StarCraft, because it's a never-ending learning process. Like, you know, sometimes I'm traveling for 2 weeks, let's say, or 3 weeks or something like that, and I don't get to play much or watch much in that time because I'm traveling around casting. And the thing is, by the second or third tournament that I'm doing, I know that the metagame is changing, things are happening that I don't fully understand, and I have to tone back my commentary because, you know, if I'm not constantly on top of watching everything and playing all the time and stuff like that, I will fall behind, and I need to catch up in that way. So, I mean, that's it. I find that so amazing and so intriguing to just continually have to stay on top of it, and it's so much fun for me to learn these new strategies and figure out, oh, this new trend is happening because of this, this, and this, and here's why it's good. And I just, basically any free time I have, I want to play StarCraft, and I should if I want to maintain the level that I'm trying to maintain.
Now, when you first started off with StarCraft, when did you really start getting competitive with it, and what was the first tournament that you entered?
Okay, so the first tournament I did was just some 2 vs 2 thing in, I believe this was the first tournament I did, in Stratforum Regs, which was a channel on Battle.net for the strategy and tactics forums on Battle.net, which is, you know, I was like, well, I want to get better. Where do I go? I go to the website of the game, and then I find the forum, and I start asking questions. So I went there and started playing with them, and I played some 2 vs 2 tournament. I think we ended up getting 2nd place or something, me and some random pickup partner, which was pretty good, I guess. But, you know, that wasn't... I was starting to get good there, but I hadn't really committed yet. I went to that site, Battle.net, a lot, and they had this tournament going on with... it was like... it was the one that Gurr won in StarCraft 1, for anyone that remembers that stuff. He won over B-Blade Leader in the finals. I'd come home every day and spam refresh and, you know, read the battle reports and go on Battle.net and talk about it. And that's really when I was like, damn, you know, I'm really good at video games. I want to be like this. I want to show the world that I'm good and have, you know, show them that I am one of these people that can be a good player, like these people, because everyone talked about them like, oh my god, like Jolly went for a course here. Did you see Kane the Feared? His game against Larry the Weird. Oh my god! And it was just, it was so cool to me. So that's when I started to get competitive, because I'm like, this is different than Nintendo and Genesis and stuff like that, because I can actually, you know, do something with this. Whereas it doesn't matter how good you get at Mario Kart in your town. Once you beat everyone, that's it. Like, you beat everyone. Congratulations. You'll never know how good you are. Whereas with this, I could really prove myself, as a gamer. And so that's when I started getting into it a lot more.
Now, rival-wise, in StarCraft 1, everyone pretty much knows that you and Day 9 were, that Day 9 was kind of your biggest rival player. Was there anyone else that you would think kind of had the same rivalry, maybe more, that people don't know about?
Everyone thinks of Day 9, but what they don't remember is that there was really, in that same time period where myself and Day 9 were very active. Because I was active before Day 9 and after Day 9, so Day 9 was just a period of my career in StarCraft 1, and it was a hurtful period, man. He beat me a lot. I always had troubles against Zerg in StarCraft 1, always. But there was another player up there at the top of USA as well, called Froz, I call him, Tom Whittier. He was like a legend in StarCraft 1. Just a great player. He beat Boxer in a tournament and stuff. It was the big deal back when Boxer was the king. But yeah, the three of us kind of had a circular rivalry where I would basically always beat Froze, and Froze would basically always beat Day 9. Day 9 for sure would always beat me. So it was a little bit lopsided that way, but it was kind of the three of us, but Froz is now a poker guy, I think. So people just harken back to me versus Day 9, the fact that I would always lose to him, which is kind of sad. But that was a period of time. I was around before and after, and before I don't think I had a real rival because that was mostly just practice. There weren't really that many LANs back then, so I didn't have enough time to get a rival. But afterwards, there was players like Noni, Hydra. I don't know if I'd consider them rivals. They were friends that I also practiced with. But after the Day 9 era, I formed the team media and got all the USA guys together, and we would basically all practice together, even though we'd play in the same tournaments and stuff. And I mean, so I don't know if you'd call us rivals or not or whatever, but yeah.
Now, kind of a two-part question. How did you meet Tasteless, first off, online, and then what was it like kind of meeting him in person for the first time? Nick, Plot, of course, being Tasteless.
Sure. Okay, so I met him on WG Tour, which was an old ladder forever ago. It was a French-made ladder that I found really early on because I was very active in finding ways to improve myself. So I went on WG Tour. I think I was the third American on there. Some Weir and Froz maybe had their friends make them accounts, and then I figured out how to go through the website in French and make an account, and made all my friends accounts and me accounts. And so I played there a lot, and eventually Tasteless got on there, and I played him the ladder a few times here and there. I knew who he was, I don't think we became we would play every now and then because we'd see each other in channels oh yeah, okay, let's play a few games, whatever. But I don't think we became friends until even the first time I met him in real life. I think the first time I met him, he made it to the USA Finals in 2005, which is that video that people have seen on the internet of my dreams being crushed and me having a weird accent. And I think that's the first time I met him in real life. And we hung out and stuff. It was good times. He was a really friendly, good guy. And, so am I guess. I hope so. But, yeah, I guess that was the first time I met him in real life. And after that, I think I met him again at the World Finals in 2006 in Italy. And we started hanging out more. And then eventually, at that time, I talked to him about him joining media, and he joined up with us in media, and a little bit after that tournament. And then we would play some online, hang out more, and it was just kind of a group atmosphere. And then eventually I moved to Korea, and we became best friends really quickly.
Now, in StarCraft 1, are you able to say kind of what your lowest point is in the game, maybe competitively or just in the game itself? Was there a low point for you or a lowest point for you?
Do you mean emotionally, skill-wise? What do you mean?
Kind of all the above. I mean, a point where, I guess to kind of expand on the question, where you started seeing all these pro players, you started going to tournaments, you played fairly well, won a couple here and there, and then you kind of saw what the Koreans were doing, and you were like, well, were you excited about the fact that you could rival them? Were you like, I'm never going to be able to rival them? What was it like for you, kind of seeing them?
All right, this will be. I have like a lot of low points and stuff, and going through all that. Basically, well, let's see. Okay, so one low point was actually basically every LAN was a low point for me in a lot of ways because really early on, right? Basically, right in the beginning, when I went to the strategy and tactics forum and then found Strat forum regs, at the same exact time, 4 of the top Americans ever started playing StarCraft in that channel together. We all had the same idea to go there. It was myself, Asem, Corball, and Louder. And we all went on to like do things like represent USA and like stuff like that. Like did really well overall. But me and Asem like became like that really quickly. We were both like completely arrogant and egotistical and like totally driven to be good. And eventually we got banned from the channel because we were just too much and they were trying to have a good time. And like we had already learned everything we could and we're beating people. And by the way, big shout out to Ariador, aka Liquid Drone. I got to say that right now before I forget about it. He actually taught me specifically a lot about StarCraft. And he's one of the reasons I give back and teach so much because I was a scrub noob and he sat in games and did things like told me when to build command centers and remind me to build SCVs when he was at a level to play with pro gamers at that time. So that was a big part of my life. But anyways, back to the story. Asem and I like went and played with Koreans almost immediately after getting banned because we figured out already, because Koreans were like the best forever, man. It took like a few months for them to dominate. And so we were playing with Koreans forever, and we knew that we were amongst the very best in USA for a very long time. So like, it was always depressing. My first LAN in Kentucky, the Million Man LAN, Asem and I both expected to hit about top 3. I thought probably Asem would win. I might get 3rd, 4th place, something like that. You know, Asem went out 0-2, and I made it into the money, but I didn't make it very deep. I screwed up. I got like cocky in my games and stuff. Oh God, I flew. I'm not even going to talk about what I did. I flew a lot of. I was like maxed out TVT killing Apex X, and he was on 2 base, and I did what I always yell about people doing in StarCraft 2, where the Protoss on 2 base, they just drop and like into units. It's like and then they lose. That's what I did. And so, anyways, that was depressing. And then in the USA Finals in 2002, I flew to Texas on a whim at a week's notice to qualify for USA Finals. Qualified. Went to USA Finals, had my games won, lost them, didn't make it. Top 3 that year went to Korea. That's what I wanted. I didn't make it. That was really depressing. But then 2003 was the year that I just about wanted to die. The first time that I just about wanted to die because of StarCraft. Basically, I had started, I was like working jobs. I was working at like a store. I started dating and stuff like that. Finally, kind of a late bloomer. And the girl that I had dated for like a really long time, for me at that time, a really long time, like 6 months or something like that. She dumped me like a week before.
Oh no.
The finals for my region. Like I went to a qualifier with no practice and beaten Cyrax and Hoves and just won the thing easily. And then I was like in shambles and practiced 90 hours that week. I took a week off work, practiced 90 hours, burnt out completely, and didn't make it to the USA Finals. It's the only time I didn't make it to the USA Finals in 2003. The thing is, my 2 best friends at the time, Asem and Gentho from Warcraft 3, who used to do commentary with me, and he's who I started with Ascension. But they both qualified. So my 2 best friends are at USA Finals, and they both qualify for the World Finals in Korea. Gentho won Warcraft 3, and Sam got 2nd in StarCraft. And I'm like sitting there. Oh yeah, not just that. Everyone who qualified won a computer. So that was.
That's the nail.
I was like really excited for them. They like called me up after they won. I was like, "Wow, that's so awesome!" But it was terribly depressing for me. So the next year, I took it a lot more seriously, made my goals and stuff. And then 2005 was like that video that shows me. I mean, people can have told me over and over that video on YouTube of me in 2005, they can tell that I'm eaten up. That like destroyed me. That killed me, man. I stopped playing StarCraft for a little bit after that because I was so good in 2005. Like, I practiced so hard. I cannot even convey the amount of time and effort I put in that year. And then WCG USA, in its infinite stupidity, because it is the stupidest, worst-run tournament of all time ever anywhere. It decided single elimination for 2 spots going to Singapore, single elimination, and then seeded the bracket alphabetically by first name. And I think I put Dan and Nyokin put Daniel, so it like switched our positions or something like that. Like something like this happened, okay? Like where just me and Nyokin have the same first name, and like so then I'm in the bracket with Day9, and he's in the easy bracket full of people that can't beat me. And like it was earth shattering because I had a guy there filming me and everything. That's where that he got that from, because my sponsor at that time, like iGameSpot, like knew this guy and he wanted to get some footage. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna have him do you because you should probably win this tournament. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make it for sure. And then I find out the seeding and I lose, and it was, oh my god, it was the most brutal thing that's happening emotionally almost in my whole life. It was, I was so sure of myself and failed so terribly bad, and worst games of my life. And Day9's not someone I ever beat anyways, so that was a pretty low point there. But you know, eventually I got back into it, and I don't even remember what the question is, man. I'm like, well, I'm getting flustered thinking about 2005 again.
I know that was a terrible tournament for you, and you hated life and everything. But what I want to know is, where the hell did your accent go? Because you do not sound anything like what you did in that video.
Yeah, I think that it just accents like go away when you like don't speak around people with the same accent. Mm-hmm. That only makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When I watch that video, I'm like, what?
You sound nothing like it.
I'm still sure I never sounded like that, but yeah, I don't know. I visited back at home recently after the last arena that I went to, mm-hmm. Because you know Salem's not that long of a drive, and my brother kind of sounds a little bit like that, and so by the time I was leaving, like a day and a half later, I almost felt the accent starting to come back into my brain somehow. But you know, I spent a lot of time on Ventrilo in my last years in America with the media guys, and none of them really had accents except for LZ Gamer, and no one's going to pick up his accent. So everyone had pretty normal accents. They were from, you know, the Midwest or like, you know, California, stuff like that, like not heavy accents. So I think that started to get it out of me. And then by the time I moved to Korea, I had been talking to no one in real life and just people on Ventrilo for a long time. So my accent was pretty much gone. And then I started hanging out with like Tasteless and people with Korean accents. So I don't know. Somehow I have like a doable accent at this point for TV, thank God.
Well, go watch that video if you guys have not seen it yet, and you can listen into what we're talking about. I want to kind of start talking about Korea now. Initially, why Korea? How did that come up, and what formulated the idea of I should move to Korea in your head?
Okay, so I think I was probably the first person outside of Korea to really, that wasn't a Korean at least, that really started watching StarCraft VODs. Like I was going through Korean websites finding ones where they sat in a tiny studio with spacesuits playing on Ashrigo, like original ladder maps and stuff. So I was watching from the beginning. I was fascinated. I was like, oh my god, look at how professional this video game stuff is over here. This is craziness. So I really liked it for a long time, and I knew the Koreans were the best. Watched every little clip of everything I could find, read everything on everything, you know, completely absorbed myself. And I was also doing the same thing with Magic the Gathering. I was playing a lot of tournaments and like doing really, really well in Magic. I was like just about to hit the Pro Tour. I was like top 8ing in the tournaments I was going to all the time with like my own decks and stuff, and in the Boston area, which was the best back then. So I knew I was like just about there in Magic. I was really close, but at the same time, I was like qualifying for USA Nationals and stuff in StarCraft. So I had like 2 games that I was putting a ton of time into, and in 2004, I was like, if I really want to do this, I have to choose one. I can't do both of these. I'm just going to be like pretty good at both these forever if I keep this up. You know, you can't do 2 games at once. That doesn't work. So I sat down, I really thought about it, and you know, for many reasons I chose StarCraft. And at that point I'm like, well, I mean, this is it. I enjoy this too much. Every year I find myself coming back to play in WCG. I find myself practicing my ass off, quitting my job, dropping out of school, to just practice more so that I can do this, and I enjoy it. So at that time I decided I will go to Korea. I will achieve this no matter what, because there's no point for me to put so much time in. I felt I'm like an all or nothing guy. Like, if I'm going to put my time into something, I'm going to do it all the way. And that's what I decided about StarCraft back in 2004, and that's when I decided I'm going to go to Korea.
So you decided I'm going to go to Korea. How did it, I mean, was it I'm going to go to Korea the next day, I'm at the airport, or how did that, what was the next step for you, kind of?
It was a pretty wishful I'm going to go to Korea. It was a dedicated one because I didn't give up, but it took me until 2008 to get there. So that was 4 years after I decided I finally made it, and not for the original reason I wanted to.
What was the reason then in 2008?
Well, I wanted to go as a pro gamer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It took me until 2008, where I got invited over to work on scforall.com and do like StarCraft commentaries, basically. So yeah, that's why I went over there. But you know, I went over there with the intent to be a pro gamer still.
Who are the? I mean, who invited you over? How did that relationship start? Was that through people you met on BattleNet, or?
It's kind of a little bit complicated. All right, so Puerto Rican, Rick Sanchez, a guy that's actually done so much for StarCraft that no one will ever remember, unfortunately, but hopefully they will, because a lot of people watch Real Talk. A great guy, indeed. He made the connect with the IEG CEO. That's International Esports Group. That's a Korean company that used to own the license to Pro League and MSL, one of the companies that Blizzard battled against in all those suits before StarCraft 2. He made a connection with him at, I believe it was WCG 2007 World Finals or something. Puerto Rican. His ID was Puerto Rican. I'm not being racist. He always like ref games at WCG and stuff. Did stuff like that. Sometimes played, you know, all-around gamer type of guy. So he made a connection and went over and started running scforall.com for them, which was going to be like, they knew StarCraft 2 was coming out. This was back in like 2008. So they knew that it was coming out. It didn't come out for years after that, but they were getting ready, and they wanted to have a big like news portal or something like that, like a nice website. So he was over there working on the site, and they decided to have a tournament because he also owned Istro, which is a pro team, or was a pro team, which, by the way, like a godly number of top pro gamers came from. Parting, Keen, Fruit Dealer, Trickster, Killer, Puma, Flying in OSL. There's like an endless list of these top go-tos that came from Istro for StarCraft 2. But anyway, so they decided to have a tournament to get an American over for the Istro team, which is great. That was great. I played in that tournament. I don't even remember who I lost to be honest, but I did lose. And Idra ended up winning, so he got to go over. And so he's over practicing in Korea. And then they decide, you know, this site is not getting hits. It's really not doing that well. At the time, there was only one professional English commentator in the world. It was Tasteless over in Korea already. At that time, I would say I was the second most loved commentator, right up there with Tasteless, as far as love from the community, because I had casted Ascension, and then I did TSL, and I did it like unbelievably analytically, like more so than now. Because obviously I knew the ins and outs of stuff, and people loved it, and so, you know, they started looking around, and eventually between Puerto Rican and Idra pointing them in my direction, they talked with me, and they're like, do you want to come to Korea and give this a try? And I was like, yep, absolutely. And so within a week, I was on a plane to Korea to do that.
I'm going to have to ask you, can you set your webcam so it's not shaking for whatever reason? Looks like it's just shaking a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah. I should fix it. I'm sure people watching are going to go crazy about that, so I had to comment about it. But so you land in Korea. You're here to help out SC for All. What was your first day in Korea like, if you can remember? And were you nervous? Were you excited about it? What were you kind of feeling?
I guess I had a little bit of nervousness. Not much, though, because I had wanted this since 2004, and I was going to make it work no matter what. Like 100%, no matter what, I was going to stay in Korea. They brought me over on a 2-month payless contract to see how I did. So my first day, I got picked up at the airport. Puerto Rican and Idra were both there. And we went back to the Eastro house, which was really exciting because I had been watching every game forever. Now, I wasn't like fanboying because I've always looked at the Koreans as my rivals, whether they were or not. You know, I look at them as I'm not a fan of Boxer. He's a player that I want to beat in StarCraft. So, but anyways, so I go over there and I start meeting all these guys that I already know from, you know, watching them and reading about it and all that stuff. And I met right away Art of Terran, Dongjin, really nice guy. I met right away Sungtek, who was Xian, 333. He's now a coach of, what team does he coach now? Samsung, I think? Yeah, Samsung. But yeah, they were coaching at the time, and I met them right away, and we talked, and they showed me around the house a little bit, and showed me the practice room. And I went down and got to watch Idra play a little bit. Easter was a very Terran-heavy team, and I went into that room and stood there and watched all the Terrans play for a bit, and they had people like Up Magic and C Really, and all these other players. And one guy I was watching, and I was just watching, and I'm like, damn, like this guy, I don't know who the hell this guy is. He's going to be so good, though. So as me and Idra go up, I'm like, who is this kid that sits in this seat? He's going to be so good. He's like, yeah, that's Puma. And that was my first day in Korea. Then I went to sleep.
I do want to state that back then, for those that didn't follow StarCraft 1, Idra did play Terran. So if you were confused when Dan referenced that, he played Terran back then. What were the living conditions like in that house?
All right, so I have to put this disclaimer. I'm so happy that they brought me over, and I would not give up that opportunity that I got for the world, ever. I would not redo it any other way. But I was promised the one thing I wanted to make sure of is that I'd have a PC to practice on, because I was flying back to America for USA Finals and BlizzCon. BlizzCon I was going to cast at, USA Finals play-in. And I was in ridiculously good shape right before I went to Korea. I was playing, 12 hours every single day, just grinding my ass off. They promised me I'd have a PC to play on. And that didn't come true, unfortunately. So I went to Korea with no money, no PC, and didn't get to play StarCraft for like 8 months. So my skill went down to the shitter, and that was the end of my pro gaming career forcefully, unfortunately, which was a little bit heartbreaking. But I was in Korea, and that's what mattered. I was in the esports mecca, and I could make a life off this maybe. But anyways, I got there, not being paid. I had maybe $400 to my name total. The house that we lived in had about 17 guys in it. I was put in a little room with Puerto Rican and Idra, so they put the foreigners together for a bit. They switched it up eventually and put Idra into one of the other rooms because it's like better to be with your team. But everyone was kind of new there. Idra had been there for, I don't know, 4 months. Puerto Rican, something like that too. They came around at kind of similar time. I forget who went first. But I got there and we all stayed in the same room, which was always full of clothes for some reason. It had 2 mattresses on the ground, and whoever went to bed first got the mattresses, and Idra was forced to play until like whatever time they ended practice, like 1 or something like that. It's very standard, very normal. But he had to play till then, and me and Puerto Rican had to be at the office at like 9 every morning. So guess who had to start sleep on the floor? Unless me and Puerto Rican stayed out late, or one of us stayed out late for whatever reason. Idra then got to start sleeping on the floor for a while. He still hasn't forgiven me for that, I think. But the house, I'm a vegetarian. I was actually on my way to vegan
Really?
before I went to Korea, but decided to stop that because I was like, well, it seems like I will have too hard of a time if I try to keep this up, because I was like weaning myself off of things like eggs and cheese and stuff back then. I was like really more into it than I am at this point. So basically, I lived off of eggs, because they had eggs in the house. They also had seaweed and rice. Those were the 3 things in the house that I could eat. So I ate those. I lived off those for a very long time. Other than that, when I was at work and we went out to lunch and stuff, I would eat bibimbap every single time. I ate bibimbap, like basically every meal that wasn't rice, seaweed, and egg, which is, by the way, they're all in bibimbap. Every meal other than that was bibimbap.
What is that for us non-Koreans?
Okay, it's like
dwellers?
some different vegetables, rice, a single egg, some hot pepper sauce, and normally some seaweed thrown in. You mix it all together and you eat it.
Okay.
It's like a really healthy, delicious food, actually. It's really good. A lot of foreigners really like bibimbap when they come over, but I ate it too much. So, yeah, the site started getting a ton of hits after I went there because I was doing commentating and eventually some videos and stuff. And it started doing really, really well. So they started giving me a little bit of money, so I'd have enough to just barely eat and get to work. Other than that, I was like really poor for a long time. Luckily, back then the Korean won was like really weak. It was like basically $2.50 US would get you a meal like a bibimbap. And I started hanging out with Tasis a lot, and he was doing well, so he bought me a lot of $2.50 meals because that's what we used to eat back then. So, it was like I guess pretty tough living conditions. I can't really explain how poor I was. Like it was really poor, like jumping over subway stalls with $1 in my pocket to give them when I got caught. That type of poor. But I mean, it was like a really good character building. It was fun. Everyone should try to be poor at some point in their life. Well, I guess that sounds stupid.
Well, I left MLG, so I'm doing it, man.
It's true. I'm better off for the way my life was for the first long while in Korea.
Now, you heard stories, of course, of StarCraft 1 in Korea. You saw pictures, I'm sure you watched videos and VODs of whatnot, of the teams. When you were there and you got to experience it firsthand with your own eyes, was that kind of like your dream was fulfilled, or you basically accomplished something that you set a goal for early on in your life?
Well, no, this was only a part of it, a part of my goal. I wouldn't actually look at it as my dream was fulfilled going over there. My dream was to be a pro gamer and win a Star League, basically. And I didn't achieve that. I actually view myself as failed on my ultimate goal. But it was like a step on the way. Like I wanted to become a pro gamer, make it my living, and I got to Korea, which I knew to get to. I knew I had to get to. I knew that that's the only place to make a living as a pro gamer in this game. And so I made it, and that was really great. And I felt at least accomplished that I finally got there, and I had the opportunity. That's all I wanted in the whole world was an opportunity to prove myself and to somehow make it work. And so I guess I felt accomplished and good about that. But the actual goal I had set for myself in 2004, I never reached.
In terms of Korean culture, was there a lot of adapting that you had to do?
This is actually an interesting thing where my circumstance differed a lot from like what Nick's was. Like, Nick, I'm sure mentioned in his, he came over and got to hang out a lot with people like Elke and Gur and stuff like that, Red Kroll, all these guys that helped him out. And I hung out with them a little bit when I finally came over too, and that was cool. They're great. But I was put into a completely different circumstance. Like, Nick got an apartment eventually, and I lived with a Korean pro team. So I was like surrounded by Koreans all the time. So I learned Korean culture really quickly. I made friends with Hwani very quickly as well. And so oftentimes it would be me and a bunch of Koreans, including Hwani, who was kind enough to explain to me the different cultural things. So I adjusted really quickly to the culture. I learned it a lot. I really like the culture overall. I like it better than culture of America in many ways. Not always, though. There's definitely some ways I don't appreciate as much. But I really like a lot of the respect stuff that's involved, and a lot of the manners and how nice everyone is. And I really appreciate those things. So those fit in with me like very quickly. Like I totally understood like these. Okay, so you people are loyal to each other. I like that. That's something that I've always wanted. You people are going to help each other in these ways because you're friends, and that's really cool and all that. The one thing that I did have a harder time doing was adjusting my sense of humor and the way I talk, because people that know me well know that I talk in hyperbole a lot around friends, and I make a lot of jokes and a ton of sarcasm. A lot of aggression that's fake and stuff that's just like kind of funny. When you hang out with me, you get it. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but at first that wasn't going over well, so I had to learn how to place my jokes in the right places and how to socialize correctly in like a culture that views the way that I talk differently than the culture I come from. Basically, that was the only part that I had any difficulty with, and that wasn't even really that hard. I took on a Korean culture pretty quickly.
Were you ever put into situations where, I guess I hate using the term, but were you ever put into situations where you felt that maybe maybe people were being racist or weren't accepting of a person like you living over in South Korea?
Yeah, like a little bit. Overall, the Korean StarCraft 1 scene just assumed foreigners were all trash and didn't know anything about StarCraft whatsoever. So, I mean, there was like maybe a little bit of that where they, when people are introducing me to like the teams or whatever, and they're like, yeah, he's won some tournaments in USA, he's represented them a couple times, he was basically a gamer, stuff like that. That people weren't so accepting. But I mean, that's not a big deal. That's just like they know that there's like basically no foreigners around that can kill them. So
yeah, whatever.
Not a big deal. As far as actual racism, racism almost only comes from really old people here. And most of them are like the sweetest, nicest people you ever meet. But occasionally you run into something like that. But I don't see it as like a big issue or anything.
Looking back on when you moved to South Korea, do you feel that you were asked to move over there for the website in 2008, 4 years after you had kind of set the goal that you were going to go over there? Do you think it was the right point in your life for you to go over, and do you have any regrets about your transition from the U.S. over to South Korea?
No, I don't like to regret things. It's like a silly emotion. No, I'm completely happy I finally made it. And it's interesting the time I made it at. Like, if I had been able to have an opportunity to go over in 2004, my life would be completely different. I'd be a pro gamer right now, living on a team probably, just grinding out for my whole life. And my life turned out, like, way different because it took me longer to get there. And then, like, certain promises were broken. And, I didn't get to have the chance to ever pursue being a pro gamer in Korea. So I don't regret anything though. It's like my life is great. I'm really, really happy.
In Nick's Real Talk, he was pretty open about his, I wouldn't call it hatred, but his dislike for the U.S. and living here in the U.S. Do you ever see yourself moving away from Korea at any time in the future? And if so, would it be the U.S. or would you rather go somewhere else?
I don't think I'll ever live permanently in U.S. again. I could see myself possibly going there at some point. I mean, I always consider everything an option. But as far as happiness goes, I don't think USA is the place for me.
Is there a reason why?
I've grown accustomed to the way things are done out here, and I like a lot of it. Like, I can't believe it. Like, when I go through culture shock, or reverse culture shock, I don't know what you call it sometimes in America. Like, if I'm at a restaurant and my waiter is rude to me, I go into shock. Like, I'm actually, like, flustered and I don't know what to do. Because that's so completely unacceptable over here. If a waiter is rude to me here, I mean, it won't happen. It doesn't happen. Like, I mean, you're paying for a service and they're taking care of you, you know? So, and that's happened to me a few times in America. I don't know if that's like a normal thing or not, because all I did before I came to Korea was play StarCraft. So, but I mean, you look at like the airports, for instance. How many douchebags have I gone through in U.S. airports? Are you kidding me? Like, how is everyone so rude in airports in America? It's ridiculous. You know, it's actually stressful. And you know, there's like, as far as politically speaking, there's a lot of things messed up about America, and of course Korea has some messed up stuff too. They're taking evolution out of textbooks over here. My head hurts.
That's a topic for a whole nother show, a whole other thing.
I'm extremely liberal. The fact that there are areas that don't allow gay marriage in this world hurts my brain. I don't even want to think about it. Like, oh my God, there's so many things wrong with every country probably, but you know, USA, I don't know. It's I see more charm in other places. I feel more free in Korea than I ever did in America. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I didn't like about America comparatively now that I've been around the world.
Well, I wanted.
But wait. To be fair though, so I don't get a bunch of flamers, I still like America. I like to go there. Everyone I meet there is like super nice.
We'll let you back in the country.
You know, I still like America. It's just I don't think I want to live there ever again. And well, if I do, I do. But that right now, my thought at this moment, as you ask me this, JP, is I'll stay in Korea for now.
I want to go back to what you said with SC for All, how it was originally planned to kind of be a portal for StarCraft 2 back in 2008. When StarCraft 2 was finally announced, everyone thought, like, is it actually going to be here? Is this a real thing? And it was finally announced at the Blizzard event in South Korea. I forget what year. Was that 2010?
Dude, that was... No. It was announced in, like, 2007.
Really?
Yeah, it was, like, 2007 that it was announced. And the beta didn't come out for years after that. It was actually a terrible tease.
I think... I don't know. That seems wrong to me.
It was announced.
Oh, well, when it was announced, I mean, were you already kind of ready to jump on to StarCraft 2? Were you fearful? I mean, at that time in esports, Counter-Strike Source and Counter-Strike 1.6 kind of split the community. Were you fearful of that happening? What went through your head when it was first announced?
Well, I figured it would take Koreans a while to switch over, but I knew all the foreigners would immediately go. It was just obvious. The foreigners needed a new game with fresh blood. It was the same. It was so rare for a new player to rise up, so I knew that would happen. Every single good foreigner left StarCraft 1 immediately. So there was zero fear. I was waiting for StarCraft 2. There's a quote of me in that silly 2005 WCG video where I'm like, oh, I'm just waiting for StarCraft 2, you know, since 2005. So, yeah, I mean, zero fear whatsoever. I was just completely excited about it because I knew that was my chance to actually make a living and not just eat rice for my whole life.
I did some fact checking. It was 2007. Good Lord, it's been 5 years since that was May 19th, 2007. That's crazy to me. But initially, you know, when you were finally able to play the beta, what were your just blunt opinions on it right at the start?
I loved it. it was great, man. Just I had waited for it for so long that it couldn't have been bad. Like, even if it was bad, I wouldn't have known because I was so excited. The first day, like, I literally woke up in bed in the middle of the night. My friend texted me that it was coming out, and I said bye-bye to my girlfriend, jumped in a taxi, went home at, like, it was 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. or something like that, called in from work. I played 17 hours straight, 73 games in the first day, I think it was.
Jesus.
Ranked #1 in the world. I loved it, man. I was all about it.
When the game finally shipped after the beta was over, were you happy with the shipped version of the game?
Well, it wasn't really very well balanced at the moment. Yeah, it was. Zerg was still a little bit weak, but I was just happy it finally shipped so we could have real tournaments. That's really. It's like, the thing is, I know that eventually balanced stuff will be worked out. It'll take them a while to do it because they want to be careful about it. But at first, the balance, some of the imbalance issues were, like, so obvious, but weren't dealt with for a while. But right now, they're actually doing a kick-ass job balancing. I'm, like, so impressed every time I read a patch.
Were you, I mean, as someone who lives in South Korea and works very heavily in the industry, you are probably privy to a lot of the stuff before it happens. Did you know that the StarCraft 1 organization, specifically KESPA and whatnot, would kind of cause not problems, but cause the drama that we're seeing today? Were you privy to this prior to, and did you expect it to kind of play out as it has?
I assumed things like this would occur. GOM and KESPA were enemies from StarCraft 1, and just culturally speaking in Korea, I mean, if you have an enemy, they're your enemy, and, like, you will do things to each other. Now, I don't know if they still feel like that at this point. It seems like they're starting to work together, which is great, but I did assume that there would be some road bumps on the way. But the only way for this to work out in the end is going to be for people to work together. People can't go up against each other here. It would actually hurt everyone. So I figure eventually this is all going to work out anyways, and it seems like it already is.
Let's talk about the GSL. Last night, this was recorded on the 4th of September, so I guess the 4th for you. You guys had your 2-year anniversary at GOM from the first broadcast. How did that relationship start for you, and did you know or think that when you went to Korea that you were going to be casting for such a worldwide audience as you do now?
No, I never thought StarCraft would get this big. I thought it would get big enough with StarCraft 2 for me to sustain a life, and that's what I thought. So I never thought it would be quite like this. As far as GOM goes, I knew GOM. I had filled in for Tasteless at GOM once before, and I'd shown up at the studio when Idra was playing. I didn't know them well or anything, but they knew who I was, working for IEG, their rivals kind of, and I knew who they were. And a little bit after the beta came out, I quit my job at IEG that I was at for, like, over 2 years, because I was like, well, I'm just one of the best players in the world right now. I'm going to be a pro gamer. This is silly. I'm making almost no money here. Like, I have to do it. This is what I came over here to do anyways. And then, Nick, being my best friend, he'd been telling me that GOM might want to hire us to do a league. They're planning something. So eventually we went down for a meeting. The money was really good. I was unbelievably poor. So I started casting, and I was trying to play and cast at the same time. But the problem was I wasn't good at casting back then, really. Like, people liked it, but there wasn't a lot to choose from. Like, yeah, my strategical analysis was good, but overall I don't feel like I was all that good at everything. So I was working so hard on my casting that my play started to really suffer. I was getting burned out a little bit because my entire day was StarCraft, like, every single moment instead of 99% of it like normal. So eventually I just went more and more into casting. I was getting frustrated with my play. You know, I lost that first season to a complete noob in stupid games. Like, I was very upset with that. And, I kept trying to qualify, and I kept coming really close and just barely not making it to stupid shit like DTs when I don't have a spore crawler and I have, like, 4 bases with 40 mutas. And, like, I was getting really frustrated. And, so I just casted more and more, and we got better, and eventually it just became obvious that casting was where I should be for now.
Nick commented that you guys really put a lot of thought into Tastosis and kind of the brand Tastosis. Can you kind of describe how both you and he arrived at the plan, and what were some of the challenges that you guys faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well, we were the two big StarCraft commentators for basically forever. I mean, there was some guys on YouTube. There was like Diggity and Klazart and Moltrap and stuff, but we were the ones getting like the actual events, and we were the ones that were like these ex-pro gamers basically. So our word was law as far as commentators. So, and the thing is, we became friends, like really good friends. We were friends before, and then when we were in Korea together, we found out that we were both like on the same level mentally. Like we just clicked and got along really well. So we started doing some events together and stuff. So just some really small stuff that people probably never saw. Like we did like an ESWC thing, and we did like a little Filipino Star League thing, and eventually Nick got me into BlizzCon, and we just met up every single day and hung out. Like every day when I was done work, I'd go hang out with him, and we'd talk, we'd eat lunch, whatever. And eventually we decided, you know what, like we should just have each other's backs the whole time, because I had gotten him some work, he'd gotten me some work. We were good friends, we were working well together, and so we just got each other's back and became closer and closer friends, worked together more, hung out more, and eventually it was obvious, it just kind of like fell into it that we should like be together, because our love grew. Yeah, I mean, there were some trials in it. Like we worked for rival companies for years. He was with GOM and I was with IEG, and that's those are two companies completely opposed to each other at that time. Mm-hmm. So that was an issue. And there's been random stuff all over the place where we've had to cover, like not exactly cover for each other, but like have each other's back to make sure that both of us are getting what we deserve and being able to do events, so people can't just like cherry pick and like, make Batman and Superman fight together. They get two Batmans or they get nothing.
Was the name Tastosis community made, or was it something that you guys? Because a lot of the time, community makes the casting Archon, something that you guys actually, I think, made up. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it was. I think the original idea was given to us from Lipton from Starfeeder. Really smart guy. I think he called us just once in a write-up because we were casting something for his site or something. Uh-huh. He said something about like the casting Archon or something like that, and we're like, ooh. And so I think we came up with Tastosis. It was Artless or Tastosis. So
Artless.
It was obviously Tastosis. Artless is terrible.
You're one of the unique casters in the fact that both the community and pro gamers kind of back and agree with what you say, or I'm sorry, what you cast for pretty much any tournament. Is there something that, starting out as a caster, I guess almost 2 years ago with GOM, any advice that you would give yourself kind of back then?
I'm not sure. I think the smartest thing I ever did in my casting career was switch to Protoss. Because it gave me a lot more intelligence. I already know Terran from StarCraft 1. I learned Zerg completely. And getting the Protoss perspective, I feel like filled me out a lot. So I guess I tell myself, go ahead and do that when you're ready. Like, don't hem and haw over it, because I hemmed and hawed over it for a few months, whether I was going to do it. But yeah, I don't know if there's any specific advice. I'm generally just really happy with how things work out for me. No real regrets.
To put you on the spot a little bit, what do you think separates you from the rest of the casting world?
I would say the fact that I actually still deep inside want to compete professionally. And I don't think there's another caster really like that. Like I I was at like a really high level in StarCraft 1 and then a really high level in StarCraft 2, and I still want to be, and I still try to be, even though I'm really not at the moment. Like, I'm traveling way too much. I have a baby. It's hard. But I think that that helps me. You know, I have more experience than... Hold on. I don't want to say something stupid. Let me think for a second. Okay, I think I have more RTS experience than any active pro gamer in the world. I'm pretty sure, because I've been playing basically nonstop since like year 2000. So that's like 12 years or something, just of constant play and practice. And you know, I don't know if anyone watching this has read Outliers, but like the 10,000 hour rule, where if you do something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it, like a world class expert, like top 0.01% or something like that. Like, I forget exactly what it is, but anyways, I've done that like 3 times over. Like, I've put in more time than any other caster. You know, I've casted, not necessarily just on casting. Like, there could be casters that have actually casted more, but on actual games played and stuff. And the fact of the matter is, like, I am still, when I'm home, I am like grinding on the ladder and studying replays and studying VODs and just doing my absolute best to be the best player I can. So I think that's what puts me above others, I guess.
You bring up traveling, and I know that a lot of casters have been vocal about the amount of travel and kind of the, not so much working conditions, just the amount of work that the casters are required to do at these events.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself this year, because you, like I said, you were in Australia 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, then Germany right out after that. Do you see yourself kind of sticking around and create a little bit more this year, or are you going to continue traveling that much?
It really matters what the plans are for like GOM next year. I would prefer to not travel quite as much as I'm doing right now, but I do have to make money, support my family and stuff like that. You know, there's so that's important, and that's a part of why I travel a lot. I also travel a lot because I do like to travel. Don't get me wrong, I do like to travel, and I love to go to these events and cast these other players, because normally I'm just casting Koreans, and I do love to see foreigners play and cast them as well, and meet up with them and visit friends and all this stuff. But yeah, I would like to put it down a little bit. Like, I don't like doing 2 events right in a row. I like to have time in between, because it's like being on the road for 18 days, living in hotels and airports is like, it's tiring. It's terrible for my health. I've become really unhealthy this year. You know, it's really difficult to do. And it's, especially being in Korea, you know, I guess MC travels more than me. And maybe Huck. But other than that, I think I actually have the most miles on my frequent flyer miles card, because, you know, I'm always flying to USA and Europe, which is like so far away. So it's like, it's pretty grating after a while. But, you know, if it's a more manageable pace, like not 2 in a row and stuff, it's not so bad. It can be pretty fun, actually.
A couple more questions regarding StarCraft 2. It was announced a day or 2 ago that, not announced, but basically a lot of Heart of the Swarm stuff is coming out. If there's one thing you can kind of say to the community, or not so much preach, but just ask them to do for the beta and for Heart of the Swarm, what would it be? What
do you mean? I'm confused.
In terms of just, I mean, a lot of people get, you know how it is. People see the beta and they get incredibly excited, and so many things are going to change throughout the course of the beta itself, and probably even when it ships, whenever that is. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you would kind of say to the community in terms of not to do, or?
Sure. Don't get too caught up on the way things are at the moment. I mean, a lot of stuff gets changed. Stuff is not just going to stay the same. Like that grab all army button, I think that'll probably get taken out. Like, I can't imagine they're going to keep that in there.
Why is that?
Because it's stupid. It's so stupid, man. Like, are you kidding me? What?
Expand on it.
All right. Think of it this way. You're playing PvZ. Zerg hits that button, has their entire army hotkeyed, moves it around. Protoss hits that button and moves their army, and then all their Templars that are on defensive duty and their Zealots that are sitting in choke points all come too, and they're fucked, because then you counterattack them with mutas. It's like, it's stupid balance-wise, because some people won't use it. What, are you going to grab that, and then your medevac drop is going to try to come back? What is this button? What is going on with this button? It's stupid. It's too easy. Why would you put that in there? But anyways, that's that aside. Like, yeah, there's going to be stuff that seems imbalanced and might be or underpowered or whatever, but eventually that stuff will get worked out. So I would stay calm. It's fun to talk about, but people freaking out about it. I don't know if people have started yet, but they will, and they shouldn't.
What do you think about Heart of the Swarm in general?
I'm really excited about it. I'm so excited. The Oracle just gets me wiggly, man, because it's like the first unit ever in StarCraft that does harassment without damage, which is so cool. And it's gonna, I feel like when I get to start casting people using Oracle harassment, I feel like everyone who watched the cast is going to get better at StarCraft, because I'm going to be able to explain these abstract concepts, like he's spent this money to harass time off of his opponent as opposed to kill SCVs. That's a very logical thing. Okay, he's killed 5 drones. It's a big deal. It's 5 less larvae. It's 5 less miners. You know, it's 250 minerals. That's a big deal. But to be able to try to explain, like, well, he just bought time with this. Now, for Zerg to max out, it's going to take an extra 12 seconds or something. You know, whatever. I feel like it's such a great unit. I'm so excited about the Oracle. I'm like giddy about it. I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the whole entire thing. I can't wait to see how this all turns out.
Do you expect the kind of evolution that we saw from StarCraft Vanilla to Brood War to occur with StarCraft 2 to Heart of the Swarm?
StarCraft 2... Wait, say that one more time, sorry.
StarCraft 1 to Brood War, StarCraft 2 to Heart of the Swarm. Do you think we'll see the same effect on the game? And to be honest, Brood War kind of changed the game and made it what it is, whereas Vanilla StarCraft was not unbalanced, but it just wasn't Brood War. Do you think? Yeah. Do you think it's going to be that big of a leap for StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty to Heart of the Swarm?
Well, I think we won't be able to tell for years, but it has to be. Thing is, we didn't know in StarCraft 1 for years after Brood War was released that StarCraft 1 was actually broken without it. There's like unit compositions that you can't kill. Like, as a Terran, how do you kill carriers? How do you do that? There's no Goliath range. I guess you just don't kill carriers, huh? And like, how do you kill Hydra Guardian? How do you do that? It's pretty hard, huh? How do you stop mutants and Protoss? You don't have Corsairs. How are you gonna do that? You know, it's like StarCraft 1 is actually not all that good. It's Brood War that's good. Now there's also Legacy of the Void coming out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think we'll know until like a year after Legacy of the Void is out, or maybe even 2 years, how far ahead it's actually left us. But yeah, I think that we're going to look back when we finally have like Legacy of the Void pretty balanced and be like, imagine if we just had Wings of Liberty units. Imagine how funny this strategy would be, or something that we don't even know about yet. So I think it will, but I won't have proof for years and years and years.
Let's move on. We can hear your kid crying in the background, something that kind of happened, obviously, this past year. When you first found out you were going to be a father, what went through your mind?
Fear. Like, it's pretty scary, man. It's like it's a big change in your life, obviously. No, I was just pretty scared overall. Yeah, that's the emotion that first went through my mind. Eventually, you know, you get a little bit excited and stuff. You're like, oh, this is gonna be kind of interesting. I don't know. But it's a pretty scary thing to tackle when it first happens.
Now, I only asked this because I have hopes of it being somewhat comical, but what was Nick's first reaction when he told him?
He like went... Just like that.
Just like that. Just like that.
Just like that.
You know, it's been how long has she been out? How old is she now?
She's about 8 months.
Is it?
Almost.
I mean, is it pretty much all that you expected? Is it?
No, it's completely different, actually.
How so?
She's awesome. She's like a really cool little baby.
You expected the opposite?
Well, people have all these ideas about babies, and I guess every baby's probably different, but I imagine it'd be like this crying, like annoying thing. But she's like really good, really smart, plays a lot. She's really quiet and well behaved. For everyone that's met her has told me she's like the best baby they've ever seen. So she's pretty awesome.
Can you talk a little bit about kind of providing for a family with a job in the esports industry, which I think besides you and probably Wheat, it's very few people that can actually do that. What is that like?
Well, I don't have like any salaries, so I have to work to get paid, and that can make it a little bit stressful because sometimes I don't have any work. Like last month, GOM had no work for me, so I'm like, all right, time to do events. So I fly to events and do that. So I mean, I have to keep myself busy, always be working and making money and manage that money well. I'm learning a lot about how to do that with a baby, manage my money and make sure that I have enough to pay for everything and everything's all set. But I mean, it's going fine for me. I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio on the Titanic before it sank, man. I'm king of the world. I have plenty of work. I'm being paid well. I'm a happy guy doing what I love. So it's not bad.
Have you had a chance to kind of take her with you to some of these events that you've gone to, or is that something you plan to do in the future?
I definitely plan to in the future, and I have a little bit. She was actually on her way to a wedding with Tara and in Canada. So I brought them to the UK before that. So I'm like, oh, why not? You're going away anyways. So brought them there and little vacation. And when she was coming back, I brought her to Australia. So yeah, I mean, every now and then. It's a baby. I don't want to fly around the world too much. I get lonely,
If you can envision a world where she grows up, hates StarCraft, hates games in general, how hard is that going to be for you, kind of as someone who works in this industry? Have you had this nightmare?
I have joked because it's like, how kids like to rebel?
Uh-huh.
I have joked that she will grow up, move to the middle of America, and marry a farmer or something. And become a farmer or something like that, because it's like the exact opposite of me. Like, I travel the world and play video games and stuff. No, I don't care. Just as long as she's happy. That's actually what I care about. I grew up in a very unsupportive household where they didn't want me to follow my dreams. They wanted me to do stupid stuff that would have made me unhappy. Uh-huh. And the thing is, I don't care what she does, as long as she's actually does something that makes her actually happy. If she can find whatever her passion for life is, whatever it is, and follow that, that's all I want. I don't care what that is.
Well, let's move into just some more general esports topics. StarCraft 2 is pretty much the pinnacle of RTS esports right now. Are there any other games kind of outside the RTS world that you follow? The esport world of, at least, like the fighting scene, League of Legends, Dota, anything like that?
Yeah, just Street Fighter. That's all that I really follow. Just because I really like Street Fighter. It's like one of these ridiculously high-skilled games. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play. So I follow them. I watch it whenever I see that it's on. I don't plan a weekend around it like I sometimes do with StarCraft. But when it's on, I'll watch it, and every now and then I look up YouTube videos and stuff like that. But that's the only other one that I really follow right now. I used to, back in StarCraft 1, I followed Warcraft 3 a lot, believe it or not, and I watched a lot of Counter-Strike, a lot of Quake. But nowadays, I mean, those games are dead. There haven't been really good replacements, so the games I enjoy are the ones I watch, StarCraft and Street Fighter.
Do you have a favorite player in Street Fighter that you like to watch or follow?
I personally like Gutex a lot. He's just such a cool guy. I've gotten to hang out with him several times, and he's just a lot of fun. As far as watching, I like to watch Daigo a lot. I don't know. It's just fun to watch him actually play, and I always love watching Koreans. I actually feel like a weird pride when I watch Koreans like in their tournaments, because I'm like, how's that feel? I've been feeling that forever, you know? And it's like, I'm like, yep, they're good. They are good.
Is there a kind of singular thing or idea that you believe is holding not just StarCraft 2 esports back, but kind of esports as a whole right now? Maybe inside of esports as well as kind of outside of it? Two different questions.
It's pretty broad. Well, you know, I think that some tournaments aren't really done right, and some content might not be produced as well as it could be. Like, it's hard. There's so much content out there, and everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie. And I mean, that's helping. It's helping for now. But will it always be helping that there's this many tournaments all leeching views off each other and stuff? Or is it better to conglomerate that into just a few? I'm not completely sure on any of this, so it's hard to say. Some of the negative attitudes from people definitely are inhibiting esports, though. That's definitely something that's happening, where there are some ridiculous people on the internet. Everyone sees them every now and then popping up on Reddit or Team Liquid or whatever. And I mean, a lot of like pro gamers, personalities and stuff that aren't like really thick-skinned, like people have been around forever, like myself and Tasteless, who are smart enough not to read very much of it. Like, I'm sure a lot of them get turned off and don't do as good a job or end up quitting and stuff because of a lot of the negativity that's out there. So, you know, that's probably one thing that's definitely hindering it, I would say.
Nick handles it a certain way, which he spoke about in his Real Talk. Is there a certain way that you handle it? Is it pretty much identical, or?
No, I don't actually handle it like he does. You mean like criticism and stuff, right?
Yeah. Just kind of like the average Reddit Team Liquid.
I still browse them. He doesn't really browse. I'm like one of the people that does what he says that he has people do. I'm like one of those people for him. But one of the ways I can do that is I actually browse this stuff, because I have like a really thick skin overall at this point. I've had many years to develop it, and so you know, I still look at stuff, but I take everything with a gigantic grain of salt. Like, I can actually read through a thread that has a lot of people commenting different comments about me, whether it's positive or negative, and actually get a feel for what people really think, rather than just a couple flaming idiots or like everyone just loving me for whatever reason. Like, I still sometimes do that. I don't look at it too much though, because it will affect your brain no matter what. You look at it a lot. Yeah, I mean, I try to not read too much negativity or even positive stuff. You know, I try to stay like on my Twitter and stuff where I can block people if they're out of line. But you know, if someone says something and it strikes a chord, like I read a comment the other day that what did it say? Something about how Apollo is really excited still to explain a build going on, even if it's the 500th time that day or something. And like, I read that, I was like, huh, all right, see, now that's a useful statement someone made on Reddit. Wow, look at that, all right. And I was like, huh, maybe I can look into helping myself with that a little bit, you know. And I try to really stay on top of all of my flaws and find them before other people. But if other people see things or see good things in other people that I can take, you know, I try to do that. I don't know. That was a rambling answer.
What did you take from that comment to expand on it?
Well, I realized that it's not always the same people watching my casts, and sometimes I am like, Reactor to Hellion Banshee, because it's like, well, guys, I've seen this 40 billion times, like, you know, like, I've seen it so much, and so many of you have too. So, you know, that's something that I've decided I want to see if there's some interesting way that I can spin this and make that part of my commentary maybe a bit better than it is now.
Spending some time on commentary, you mentioned reactored Hellions, and for a time there in TVZ, that's pretty much all it was, and for a time in the GOM, it's pretty much all it was in GSL as well. What would you say is kind of the worst trend that you've ever really dealt with as a caster in StarCraft 2?
The worst trend?
Yeah, in terms of...
I like this question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you go with it.
The worst trend was early on, Terrans just making a bunch of Marines and Marauders and trying to stim up a ramp. And they're like, maybe you'll miss your force field. The thing is, they won so many games against Protoss, and it was the most painful shit in the world to commentate, because I'm like, all right, well, if he force fields this, the game is over. And if he doesn't, the game is over. Because this is a stupid all-in. Like, that was the stupidest trend. That was mind-curdlingly hard to commentate, and like you'll hear Tasteless actually still brings it up a lot because it's like funny because like it's so dumb. Yeah.
In terms of, well, to rephrase that, a lot of people have been giving criticism to people like Husky and Day9 who very vocal, very excited about a lot of the stuff in StarCraft. How much do you think, kind of to open the curtain up a little bit, how much, I guess, in your experience, so you don't have to talk shit about other casters, is hyped from your side of things? Is there a lot of commentary where you feel like you're kind of making excitement out of nothing? And do you think that's needed in casting?
There's times where, sadly, it is needed. Let's say that you're doing a small LAN that's trying to get off the ground. They're trying to, they have these people that showed up, and it's like a very grassroots thing, right? And you're having a shitty final. You still have to make that exciting. You have to do it, right? Everyone showed up this weekend. It's important. That has to be exciting. You have to hype. Overall, I like the way Tasteless and I do it. We hype as best we can. If it's stupid and there's like, I'm not going to lie to people. I am not going to lie to people. Like, I know there's people that think I should, but I will not do it. If someone's dead, they're dead. If I can see any way for them to come back, I will tell you about it. If they're dead, they're dead. And if they're not going to leave the game, me and Nick are going to talk about something else or talk about how dead they are. And I won't hype every game. That's silly. That takes away from games that should be hyped. When I'm hyping something, I'm saying, this is really exciting. It's fucking exciting, and you should be excited. And I think that people realize that with Tasteless and I, where we're being genuine with a lot of this stuff. And I don't think other people aren't being genuine. To be honest, like, for instance, Husky, I've casted with him a few times, and I think he is one of the best casters in the world. He's one of my favorites to be paired with, absolutely. The energy he brings is amazing. It pumps me up when I'm commentating with him even. It's awesome. So I'm not like putting down anyone here, but I'm saying for me, in the way that I commentate, the way Tasteless commentates with me, that's the way that we like to do it. And we do things the way that we think that they're the best. It's not just for us, but the best overall. We try to put out the best product in esports if we can.
Kind of going along with this same theme of pulling the curtain back a little bit, what are some, or I guess what is one, depending on how many you want to give away, some of the casting, I guess the so-called casting secrets, if you have any to give up?
Oh, that's a good one. Let me think about this for a minute here. All right, up-and-coming casters, be careful quoting times. I've noticed that some up-and-coming casters are starting to use the StarCraft time a lot, and people are going to realize that sometimes people are just quoting times because they don't really know what's going on. I noticed that a little bit, so be careful. Don't over-rely on the clock to try to make yourself sound smart. It can be really good at times, absolutely. If you know that like Zerg normally gets 2 gases and ZVP around 610, 615, yeah, that's a great thing to throw in. But don't just make it up. Be like, oh, 15, 30. Ultra Scab come down. Good timing. Don't do shit like that. It'll make me yell at the screen while I'm watching. But no, you know what? Be excited when it's exciting. Don't say something for a fact if you don't know it for a fact, or you don't have like really good evidence. Don't put down players. I know you wanted tips, but I guess I'm saying all things that don't to do. But I guess that's easier.
Those are tips too.
But the player probably knows more than you about the game. And you have to look at it beyond just what they're doing in relation to the rest of the screen. What have they scouted? What do they think? What's the metagame? I mean, these are hard things to do. So, I mean, this is like a hard tip, but it's important to do that. You should not be trashing on players. I mean, sometimes you have, absolutely. Sometimes you're going to see someone be like, what was he doing there? Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen too, but be careful not to like put an onus on someone that they don't deserve. Like if they just have no way of knowing this and they die to it, that doesn't mean they're dumb. It doesn't mean they're stupid. Look into the camera. If you are at a live event, look into the camera. Don't be looking around like this. Let's see. Oh, talk with your co-caster. Almost everyone in the industry that's doing these up-and-coming casters, all that, it's two single casters casting. You want to talk with your caster. It's two people casting together. So have a conversation. You don't have to say everything. You don't always have to look smart. You can absolutely set up your friend or your co-caster, whoever he is, to look smart. And he can do the same for you. Always, never contradict each other. If your co-caster says something really stupid, like your co-caster's like, oh, he's clearly going for Banshees, but he has no gas. Don't be like, he's not going for Banshees. He has no gas. Don't do that. That is bad. It makes the viewer feel awkward. Instead, be like, he might go for that after he gets some gas or something like that. Like, figure out a different way to do it. It's called the laws of agreement. Don't screw each other over and make each other look bad, because then you both look bad. When you're injecting excitement into your voice, don't make it jumping up and down. And now he's going for the medevacs and That's actually a mistake I made back in PSL 1 when I first was starting to cast, and people realized as I was trying to get better, they're like, oh, you're just setting the intonation like different every other syllable or something. I'm like, oops. It sounds really silly after a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. There's like a ton of tips. Maybe I'll try to think of a lot someday and like make a YouTube video about it or something. But that's what I can think of right off the top of my head right this second.
What would be the funniest moment for Tastosis, in your opinion, in terms of casting an event, something that's happened kind of off camera when you're in game, and you just kind of roll with it, try not to laugh on mic, and just no one knows that it happened?
We actually decided back in like season 3 or something to just laugh when you're laughing. Like if something's funny, just laugh. We're like, screw it. You know what? It's funny. God, I'm not even sure, but there have been times. Okay, one time that comes to mind, like we were talking about who would be which Ninja Turtle, and Tesa said, one of us said that I would be Donatello, and it's an obvious setup. It's an obvious joke. Why would Artosis be Donatello? Because Donatello is the guy that like is supposed to be smart, and I'm the commentator that's supposed to be smart, right? And he goes, yeah, and you're good with a bow. And like my brain exploded. It was so funny. It was because it's like I've never even touched a bow, obviously. Like it's just so silly. It's so funny. And I don't know, we've had so many funny moments. Like when he made that noise about Nestea, like to describe him like that. There's countless highlight videos of the funniness. I don't know. I think that for a big part of our commentary is our own sense of humor, what we think is funny. So there might even be times that we think something's hilarious and no one's laughing at home at all. But I don't know. There's a lot of times, I guess.
Do you think that the humor or comedic aspect of your casting is something that kind of sets you apart from the majority of the other casters out there?
I think it helps us. I don't think you have to be funny or add humor in to be a good caster at all or anything like that. But yeah, it's different. Our casting deal is different from other ones because we incorporate humor so much. Because the thing is, we're the same on and off camera. Like, we have more foul mouths off camera, but like all we do is joke around. That's it. Like, our days, like, we get together and all we do the entire time is try to make each other laugh. We segue into real conversation, but as soon as that conversation, a joke can be made, we do it. And like, I think that might be what sets us apart the most. The fact that we're very natural because we're just acting like ourselves, as opposed to some preconceived notion of what a StarCraft cast is. We're your friends that are talking about a StarCraft game and joking around, and I guess that goes back to the exact same thing that you said, where it's the humor sets us apart because that's who we are and that's what we do, I guess.
For a while there, trying to think back exactly when, but you've done a lot of personal streaming and a lot of your own content. But lately it just seems like you've been too busy, or when you get a chance to relax, you take the chance to relax. Will we see you work on some of these streaming as well as just some of the projects that you've done in the past and if kind of left behind?
Okay, two things. First, a little rant to people who are like always in control. Set this up terribly for me, where he always asks me about the shows that get canceled.
And the tournament.
Anyone who I started posting those shot-by-shot episodes, which, by the way, keep coming out once a week. Oh, my God. The shows that got canceled were not my fault in any way. It was Ascension I couldn't finish because they wouldn't agree to a time, and then one of them quit and went back to school, and that was it. And what do I do? Put a new player in the finals? Like, no, of course not. It's over. For Unbalanced, Idra moved to America. For New Path with Major, I gave him this great opportunity, and he decided to go back to Mexico. You want me to keep making episodes after he goes back to Mexico? Are you stupid? How would I do that? How would I bring a camera to his house and talk to him about his training with Korean pro gamers? Okay, so these were not my fault. It was just bad luck. These things happen. It's fine. I enjoyed the shows while I made them, and that's it. But anyways, back to your actual question here, JP. Thank you for allowing me that little rant.
No problem.
I like to make content every now and then. I like to make it even somewhat regularly. And in fact, I've put on more recently on my YouTube, youtube.com/Artosis TV. I put on more commentaries, and I put on some tutorial videos, just some random stuff, those shot-by-shot episodes that we're doing. But, my face isn't actually in that, or my voice. So, but I want to do those things, and I'll continue to do them some. But my casting is more important. This is where I'm needed right now in esports. I'm not really needed making a lot of online content myself. That's where I was needed in StarCraft 1 after I went to Korea. That was another part of the reason, even after I got a computer, that I didn't pursue pro gaming, was because I realized, well, I'm the one person ever that can bring over foreigners to be pro gamers. I have the connections. I can do this. And not just that, I can spread StarCraft because I can actually show what's going on over here that's never been shown to foreigners in English. And nowadays, it's important for me to cast. I'm casting and helping to spread StarCraft in that way and trying to get people involved. And it's an important thing for me to do now. It's more important than the videos that I used to make, I think. There's other people picking up some slack on some of those videos, so you can check out theirs, and I'll still make some from time to time. But, it matters what my availability is, basically. If I don't travel a whole lot, and I don't have a lot of GSL going on right at the time, then, you're going to see more videos. The couple weeks before GSL started, I put up a few videos, so, it happens. I just have to have time.
Kind of winding down now in terms of my questions. I think we're going to do an afterthoughts once this video goes live, and I'll post a thread on Reddit. But do you think that there's an expiration date to casters? How long do you, and kind of personally, how long do you think you'll be able to do this?
I don't know. That's a really good question. As long as I keep taking good care of my voice, I'm getting better and better at taking care of my voice. I've always been better than Nick at it, but it's still, I still have problems with my voice actually occasionally. I don't know if people know that or not, but I'm still working on it, and I think I'll get to a point where my voice will stop deteriorating ever. Like, my voice is not exactly the same as it was 2 years ago when I started GOM, for sure. It has to be a little bit different. I like feel it inside that it's a little bit different. But anyways, that part aside, I don't think that's going to be an expiration date. I think the expiration part of this is like, do I become too old and I can't, people that like video games can't relate to me? Like, is that, now, will that actually happen? There's the most famous Korean StarCraft caster is 40 right now. Okay, and so, I mean, that's getting up there a little bit. That means I have like 11 years left at least, right? I don't know if there's an expiration date. I don't know if I want there to be or I don't want there to be. Will I always cast? I don't know that casting will always be my full-time job forever. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think that this has been answered yet. And in fact, even with pro gamers, Nest-T and White Raw are proving every day that the previous dates that people thought were expiration dates aren't necessarily.
It kind of leads to my next question. You've had two pivotal points in your life where could have, I guess it would branch off. Could have been a pro gamer. You went and did SC for All. Could have been a pro gamer. You went and did GOM TV. Will we ever see you kind of go down that path again in the future?
Well, at this point...
Truly go down that path? Because I know you always want to, but...
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to, but truly go down now that I have a family to support. Now that I'm getting a lot older. You know, I am 29 right now. I don't feel old. I don't think of myself as old. But the fact of the matter is I do need to make money, you know. I don't think there'll ever be a path like that where I just choose and I'm like, all right, pro gamer. I think I'm good enough at commentating that I can continue to do this forever. That being said, for sure, for certain, I will compete in tournaments again at some point. Like, that will occur. Like, I mean, I'm training my ass off right now. I've been just playing all day, every day since I got back, basically, from Germany. And, I mean, if things line up right and there's, like, a tournament in Korea, like a Code qualifier or something like that, I absolutely will go play it if I'm in good enough shape that I feel that I won't embarrass myself. So, there's definitely still that. Like, people will see me play again at reasonably high levels. How high, it's really hard to say, man. But the actual just pure pro gamer as my career path, I don't know. I don't think so. I'd have to be like a millionaire. If I was a millionaire, fuck it, why not? Live off interest and do it. Yeah. But we'll see if I can get there. I'll try my best.
If StarCraft, casting StarCraft, the whole esports scene were to disappear, you still had all your knowledge and everything of it tomorrow, what would be your career path?
It's a very good question. I could always get like a job in like a video game company or something like that, I'm sure, with my resume being as big as it is at this point. I would definitely still be playing StarCraft all the time because it doesn't matter to me if, you know, there's an esports scene or not. Like, I'll go back and just grind on the ladder myself and have fun. But as far as the job goes, I'd have to really take a look in my life. I always thought that if something like that happened, I'd just go back into Magic the Gathering. I don't know if that's what I would do, though. I think it's possible that I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I think about that I might be able to do. Work in some sort of broadcasting still, maybe. I've become reasonably good at that. Maybe video games of some way. Working with the internet in some way. And there's always like the pipe dream of going back to school and becoming a glaciologist. So that's always something I'm really interested in. But esports isn't going to die, so I guess I can leave you with that answer.
What's next for Artosis? Obviously, you're going to be casting a lot of events here coming up this year, but any big projects, anything in the future that maybe not a lot of people are aware of yet?
I don't think there's anything all that big. Like, I'm doing a lot of casting at tournaments. I'm really excited about going to WCS Europe Finals coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm really excited about going TV, working there. No, I mean, right now I'm stabilizing. I've been doing a ton of work. I hope to stabilize and stay in Korea a little bit more next year. But we'll see. I mean, anything could happen with that. Other than that, I'm just kind of working on myself right now. I'm starting to try to learn Korean a little bit better. I'm trying to, get in some better shape. The travel's really worn on my health. Nothing big in the pipeline right this moment now.
What is going on with Sons of StarCraft? I neglected to mention that earlier. I've seen a trailer. I don't know if it's released yet. Hopefully I'm able to talk about that.
I think he's getting like the music rights or something for it. Yeah, there's like a sick trailer that he has ready. He just has to get it all legal type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, Jeff's still working on it, and I'm not sure exactly how far he's into it. He's like getting on like a crew, I guess, right now. I think he just hired like some famous editor from like an actual movie or something.
Huh.
Or I don't know if he's a sound guy. I'm terrible at this, but yeah, he hired on someone or whatever, and I don't know what his actual timeline for getting out is. I think his original timeline, he said October this year, did he? Or was it November or something? I thought he said 2012, like late 2012. I don't think it's going to be out in 2012. That's my guess. I think it's going to be 2013 that it comes out. But that's me guessing. You'd have to ask him.
All right.
You can ask him on Twitter if you want, at Sons of StarCraft.
There you go. Go ahead and send tweets to him. It kind of flew under the radar of a lot of people, but Tasteless kind of headlined joining EMG earlier this year. And then probably a month or two afterwards, you ended up joining. How is that going, and what is your relationship with EMG, and what do they provide for you?
Well, they are my agency, I guess. They represent me, and it's great so far. They're being really great and nice and helpful, and give me all sorts of information, let me know what's going on. Basically, Tasteless and I have managed ourselves for our entire career so far, and I can't tell you how stressful it is. First off, commentating is a stressful job. It's opinion-based on how good you are and how much you get paid and stuff like that. It's not like a pro gamer where, well, I mean, MVP keeps winning tournaments, man. What are you going to do? You have to pay him a lot of money. So it's opinion-based. It's very stressful. Having to negotiate for yourself is unbelievably stressful. A lot of people over the years have sent us proposals for various endorsement things, business ideas, stuff like that. It's stressful to deal with all that yourself. So, I mean, they're taking over slowly but surely all the stressful stuff out of my life. So, so far I'm loving it. So far I'm loving working with the MG.
And finally, the final kind of real talk question is always define success, and then using that definition, do you find yourself to be successful?
I would say by pretty much anyone's opinions of success, they would have to label me as successful. Like I'm succeeding in this industry, and I've got a really good thing going on. As far as my own definition of success, I don't know, like achieving your goals and being happy. The big goal of my life to come over to Korea and be a pro gamer here. I failed on, but I don't think of myself really as a failure for that, because it's like things just kind of changed. And I mean, yeah, I guess you'd have to look at me as successful. I've come from growing up really poor in a very negative household. That was really a sad, frustrating, depressing place for me. And I've gotten to the country that I wanted to go to, working in the industry I wanted to, not where I saw myself, but in a place that I'm very happy and I'm enjoying thoroughly. I really enjoy commentating, and you know, I've got an awesome little family now that loves the hell out of me and is supportive, which is really nice. I've always wanted that. And you know, people enjoy to see and watch and hear what I do. So I would definitely put myself down as successful. You know, I'm a happy guy, but I'm not done, you know, with my goals or myself or anything like that. Like right now I'm working on myself a lot, and I'm trying to really get back into shape in StarCraft and stuff like that. I'm trying to just have a good life overall. So, I mean, while I'm successful, I'm still striving to be much more successful than I am, I guess. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that's all I got. You got any shout outs or anything you want to say here?
I guess follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Artosis. Shout out to Tasteless. Hi, Tasteless, if you're watching this. And yeah, I don't know, hi to all my friends and loved ones and stuff, and thanks to everyone for supporting me in this career. I really am so happy that I get to fly around and commentate so many great StarCraft games. And you know, I'm not a perfect human, and I'm trying to get better all the time. So I hope I can do it for a really long time. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks, JP. This show is Real Talk's awesome.
Well, thank you, Dan. Also, we'll be doing an afterthoughts, like I mentioned earlier. I'll go and post a thread on Reddit probably a couple days from now. I'm going to let everyone have a couple hours to watch this episode, and then we'll kind of go from there. You can follow me on Twitter, and I'll be announcing things there, as well as the Real Talk thread on Team Liquid. Remember to subscribe here on YouTube. It really, really helps. I apologize for not being able to stream this live. It's one of the things that I really want to do with the show moving forward, and probably will do so. But this episode is really important to me, so I wanted to go ahead and just get it done rather than waiting a couple days and retrying again online. But yeah, that's good to do it. Dan, thank you so much for coming on Real Talk. Right now, I don't have any future guests planned. Sir Scoot's still coming on. Still have everyone else that's kind of listed on the thread. But for now, just watch YouTube. I'll be posting small little videos kind of announcing who's coming on. Trying to get a regular schedule here, but in esports, everyone's schedule is a little bit screwed right now because everyone's traveling so damn much. So we'll see. Follow me on Twitter. Check out YouTube every now and then, and that's kind of where you'll see who's going to be coming on next. But that is going to do it for Real Talk. Dan, thank you once again for coming on. We will see you guys next time here. JP McDaniel signing out.